Question 21b states the following. Using measures of epidemiology, investigate the health status of Australians. So this is building on question 21a. If we have a look at our syllabus, we'll notice that still we're talking about the dot point because 21a and b have come from the one dot point area. So we're still looking at the measures of epidemiology. Using the measures of epidemiology, investigate the health status of Australians. So you need to include the four measures of epidemiology, which comes from our syllabus, and how they impact on the health status of Australians. We look at the key term being investigate. We know that investigate, well, that's going to means that students need to inquire into and draw some conclusions. So they need to draw a conclusion about the measures of epidemiology and what impact it has on the health status of Australians. So if you look at this answer here, what's so good about this answer, I like when I look at it now, is that the underlining here, the measures of epidemiology, coming from wording from the question. The four measures, mortality is underlined, infant mortality is underlined, morbidity is underlined, and life expectancy is underlined. We can see that there's examples and there's some specific information to go with each, which is why it has been included as the sample answer. So as I mentioned before, investigate means that the students need to inquire into and draw conclusions about. When we look at this response here, if you go through and have a little read of it, this response clearly illustrates conclusions in relation to the health status by inquiring into each of the four areas of epidemiology and reinforcing the conclusion of health status through a clear example for each area. So for example might be, which has been included here, for infant mortality is the best indicator of a nation's health status. And that's what's been included here when it talks about it. That's why it's been a good answer, because it's gone through the four of them and it's shown that by drawing conclusions about each of the areas of epidemiology, what impact they're going to have on the health status of Australians. When we look at the answers overall, most candidates in this one provided a clear understanding of the measures of epidemiology and were able to include examples. So from Mr. Sullivan and my own point of view, which is pleasing to hear from an external marker that we are including examples in because, as we all know, must have examples in order to achieve higher marks. Some of the concerns that we struggle with in response to this answer is the number of students repeated information already provided in Part A. Now, what students need to think about is it is essential in two-part questions that answers are not repeated. So you can't be given marks again for the information that you've already presented in question 21A. So that should be a little key point you need to think about. If you've mentioned something in 21A, and we know that 21B is going to build on that question, you can't include the same information again and expect to get marks for it. And that's an area that let a lot of students down. Another concern was that some students provided reasons why different mortality rates existed. Example, cancer incidence increasing due to more people tanning. But however, they need to be more specific with their answer. What specifically is the answer asking them to do here? What's the question all about? What is it asking them to do? It's asking them to look at the different measures and draw conclusions about how that impacts on it. Not so much talking about some of the different trends or why people are doing things. Okay, and that's what let people down with this answer here. But what's nice about this one? It's a 6-mark question. The underlining, the four big areas of epidemiology which come from our syllabus. There they are. There have been included. They stand out. The marker knows straight away. There's an example to go with it, and obviously he's drawn conclusions about how each of those four areas can impact on the health status of Australians.